All right, folks. Well, the goal for West Virginia fans is to see Neil Brown doused with Duke's MAYO at the end of the ball game coming up here in about a week. Talking West Virginia, talking North Carolina. We got Justin Walker. Coos is corner. It's right here on YouTube. Got to get on over there. Check out what Coos has in store in regard to the West Virginia Mountaineers, the Big 12, basketball as well. Coos, how you doing today?
Doing well, Mark. Thank you for having me on, man. It's been a while.
Absolutely. Good to see you. And we'll start out with your thoughts on this season. 8-4. I'm guessing I'm going to take a shot here that that's not anything that you didn't imagine could happen, even though the media was down on this football team going into this season and picked them dead last in the Big 12. I can't say I was as high as 8-4, but I think I pegged them at 6-6. And so how do you think it all turned out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, considering where the expectations were going into the season, I think it turned out well. I predicted 7-5, so I wasn't far off of your prediction. And I was one of the more positive predictors out there, even inside our own fan base and media circles. But I felt like we would be much better than the national media said we were, because I knew we were going to be strong up front on the offensive line, which is, that's where teams are built, right, is in the trenches. And I knew we would be good there, and I knew that gave West Virginia a really good chance to win a lot of games. And that proved to be true for the most part, with the exception of a couple. They won most of the games they were supposed to win, and were really close to winning a couple that they shouldn't have won. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like out of the gate, the defense took charge. The offense was slow to come around and really mount much in support of the defense, and the defense really rode this team to an early quick start, 4-1 at one point. But the offense came around and kind of found its footing later in the season.
Yeah, but a lot of that goes back to take the Penn State game out of the equation, where Neil Brown really wasn't, I don't think, showing all of his cards, because he, was still trying to feel the team out, see where they were. But then Garrett Green in the Pitt game, Garrett Green goes down with an injury early in the game, and that kind of threw a wrench into his offensive plans. Nico comes in the game. Nico played well, but, as a backup, he had not gotten all the snaps at practice, so he didn't have the full playbook at his disposal. So they basically decided, okay, we're going to run the football a lot. We're going to control the clock, and we're going to try to win with defense. They were able to do that, surprisingly. Then when Garrett got healthy after the TCU game, the offense started coming around. Now, the defense did take a few steps back for whatever reason. I think a lot of that was injury related, but, a lot of fans may disagree with that. But the defense did take a few steps back and did not play as well the second half of the season. But the team, found a way to win games for the most part, and that's, to me, that's a sign of a good football team.
So what's your take on Neil Brown's job performance today versus what it was before the Penn State opener?
Definitely much improved in my eyes. I mean, a lot of the mistakes that this team was making, and I felt he was making even as a coach for the last 3 to 4 years, he didn't make. Those mistakes weren't there this year. Like, we didn't have a lot of penalties in most games, didn't turn the ball over as much offensively. The clock management was better. I felt like his play calling improved. The team finally had an identity for the first time in several years as a running, pound the rock football team. And I think that really is a sign of him evolving as a coach. Let's be honest. He had never been a Power 5 coach before, and coming from the Group of 5 to the Power 5, I'm sure, is an adjustment for any coach. So there's probably been a lot of learning on the job for him as well. And I think we finally saw some of that come to fruition this year with Neil Brown.
Yeah, so Coos, you certainly are, as much as anybody else, on the forefront of what's happened in college football with realignment over the last couple of years,
right,
especially in the Big 12. It's an exciting time. It's kind of a strange time. You're going to be having rivalry games of sorts, or at least conference games. I shouldn't call them rivalry games, all the way across the country at Arizona State and the like, Utah. So at least the conference has stabilized itself. If nothing else, the Big 12 is not going away. It is completely stabilized itself with solid football programs Utah at the top end. Colorado's a wild card. And West Virginia now is in a conference minus Oklahoma, minus Texas. They take with them a lot of cachet, but they also take with them a situation where Oklahoma has just flat out been the dominant program in this conference for the last 20 years. Texas underachieving until this year, but takes a ton of resources with it. Is this a place where you like West Virginia staying in the Big 12 to compete and really be as viable as anybody long term to compete for conference championships?
I think so, Mark. I mean, when you compare West Virginia to the other schools in the new Big 12, I think we can stack up from a resource perspective. I think we stack up from a brand perspective. You could argue West Virginia is one of the best brands in the league. I mean, when you look historically, how good West Virginia's been consistently, I think we will be the number one team in the league as far as all-time wins now that Texas and Oklahoma are out. I'd have to go back and recheck those numbers, but I'm pretty confident in saying that. I mean, we're 15th all-time in wins. I don't think any of the other teams in the Big 12 are ahead of us. So I think West Virginia has as good a chance of anyone to win the conference. I'm not going to say it's going to happen year in, year out. I think there'll be a lot of parity in this league. So you may see different teams rise to the top, every year or every couple of years anyway. So, but I think West Virginia has as good a chance as any of them to do that.
Now, Coos, we size up West Virginia taking on North Carolina. One of the best players in college football, Drake May, will sit out of this one. And we have both just in recent days gotten familiar with one Connor Harrell. Mm-hmm. So you did a breakdown on your channel. So folks, check that out on Coos's Corner. We're doing the same here with Justin. And so then we also have CJ Donaldson, of course, West Virginia's top back. And we've got Zach Frazier, who, you said it at the start of your outlook on the way this season turned out. And it was one of the main reasons why I didn't see this team finishing in last place. They were just too strong on the offensive run. And that was led by Zach Frazier and right. 3 or 4 all-conference performers. So minus those guys, it's a bit of a different situation. And like it is with most of these games, a guessing game as to what the impact of these losses are going to be and how these new guys are going to fill in, especially when you're talking about a quarterback position on the UNC side.
Right. I mean, I actually like West Virginia's chances of going in this game, even though we're going to be without our All-American center and our I don't want to say starting running back because he had actually ceded that to Jaheim White by the end of the year, but he was our top rusher. And that's one of the reasons I do feel confident in this game on the West Virginia side is because CJ Donaldson being out, this running back room at West Virginia is so deep and so talented. I don't think the running game is going to take that much of a step back because Jaheim White, like I said, the star freshman that came on at the end of the year. And then you've got, Garrett Green is also very big in the run game, and he's going to be playing our starting quarterback. And then even though Zach will be out and he will be missed, he's a great player. The gentleman who's going to be filling in for him, Brandon Yates, is an experienced guy. So I don't think it'll be, earth-shattering to lose Zach up front. And it definitely won't be earth-shattering to lose CJ, even though I'm not saying CJ wouldn't help, obviously, but I think they'll be fine with Jaheim carrying the torch there. And as far as Connor Harrell goes, I mean, yeah, he's covering for Drake May. He's not going to throw the ball as much. In my interview with the Rivals guy from Tar Heel Illustrated on my show earlier this week, he was talking about, he'll be surprised if Connor Harrell throws the ball more than 18 times. He's more of a runner. He doesn't have a lot of experience. He's a freshman, so they're probably going to rely on his legs more than anything, which does make me a little nervous as a West Virginia fan. But at the end of the day, when you look at what North Carolina's missing versus what West Virginia's missing for this game, I really feel like West Virginia has a much better chance in this game than UNC does.
And certainly the main reason why West Virginia started out as a 2.5-point favorite and it's swelled to 6.5 based on what I recently looked up here.
Yep.
Justin, you know what the attitude is toward bowl games these days. People still watch them, so people make fun of them and kind of discard them when they talk online. But when you look at the TV ratings, people still watch them. It's the holiday season. People want to see football, so they're still going to watch the ball games.
Yep.
To me, I hate to see where this is headed, and I hate to see uh, the lack of attention given to bowl games. As you well know, I do a lot of these teams and do weekly live streams, and we're talking transfer portal and recruiting and everything else under the sun. And then we might make a comment at the end about a bowl game coming up in a week, where that used to just be everything. These bowl games were just everything. And for me, unless West Virginia goes out and schedules a home and home with North Carolina, when are these two teams ever going to play?
Exactly.
This is great. I love to see the different conferences get together. And also what makes it different than the September non-conference games is you pretty much get very like-seeded matchups.
Right.
And when these games are scheduled 10 and 15 years in advance, you don't know. Penn State's one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and it's a bit out of West Virginia's range, for example, this year. But bowl game, it's pretty much a fair fight of sorts. And that's, I just love the bowl games, and I'm good with them. And fortunately, based on the trends that I've seen this year, it seems like the opt-outs are fairly limited. Maybe we finally hit a threshold where that's about as far as we're going to see opt-outs. And I like to see that a lot of the even top teams in the country, a lot of those guys that are headed toward the NFL are actually going to play in the bowl game. So that's good to see.
It's refreshing. Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited about this matchup. I mean, like you said, two teams that are geographically in the same area of the country, so to speak, within driving distance. I mean, heck, I live in the southern part of West Virginia. I can be to the state of North Carolina quicker than I can be to Morgantown, So geographically, it's a great game for us. Matter of fact, it's probably going to feel like a home game for West Virginia fans. A lot of West Virginia fans moved to North. It's going to feel like a home game to a degree. And then, like you said, North Carolina, you got two historic programs, two solid brands. Mac Brown, Neil Brown, the Battle of the Browns. A lot of cool storylines here in this game, Mark. And I'm excited about it. I can't wait. And let's face it, it's another opportunity to watch your team play a game. And it's against, like you said, against a team, an opponent that's a respectable opponent.
I love it.
I do too.
I think the bowl games are great, especially when you're talking a couple 8-4 teams. When we talk about 5 and 7 teams making their way into bowl games, maybe that's another deal. But I don't even have a problem with that. But still, this is why bowl games were created in the first place. It's to bring teams together that we never get to see otherwise, and to reward the teams for a strong season. And that's the case with both of these. Although I got to say, I'm not going to try to pinpoint or question the level of incentive or motivation for these two teams. The guess would be that West Virginia would be more motivated just because they haven't been to a bowl game in a few seasons versus North Carolina coming into this season off a 2022 ACC championship game appearance. And with Drake May being a Heisman candidate, that they were expecting possibly a big season. But they've had time to get over that. And usually in these situations, while people expect, okay, well, that team's going to lay down, that happens from time to time, but usually it doesn't. They've had time to recover and then, get their competitive pride back and put together a good showing.
Right. I go back to something Neil Brown said in one of his press conference. Well, I think it was in his MAYO Bowl press conference, actually, when talking about players getting excited for bowl games. And he admitted it can be a challenge at times, but one of the things he pointed to as a positive for these games, even if you have opt-outs, which West Virginia doesn't have many, but even when North Carolina has a few, but when you have opt-outs, it gives the younger guys an opportunity to step up and play that may not get to play otherwise. I mean, even guys, for example, with CJ being out, we also have a backup running back that went to the portal. That leaves our running back room a bit thin. Well, we have a running back named DJ Oliver who is a redshirt guy. Well, bowl games don't count towards your redshirt. So he can play in this game, even though it'll be his 5th game. It won't hurt his redshirt, and he'll still have his 4 years of eligibility. So we'll get to see DJ Oliver play for the first time against a Division I team, or a Group of 5 or FBS team, I should say. So that's exciting to me as a fan. I want to see how these young guys step up, and it also might make them more excited to play, which maybe that's a good thing. Maybe those young guys will be more excited to play than maybe the veterans would have been in this game. That's one way to look at it.
The other thing I would preach to my team if I was a head coach is most of the time, not in every case, but there are going to be more people watching this game more than likely than any other West Virginia game this season. Now, maybe the Penn State game you could take. Anyway, it's going to be one of the 2 or 3 most watched West Virginia games the entire season.
Right.
And for a lot of these teams, it is definitely the most watched game because it only makes sense that from Saturday to Saturday, West Virginia's on FS1 or wherever they're playing on that particular ESPN, and there's 12 other games going on at the same time, and it fractures the audience.
Right.
They're on a stage all by themselves, and everybody that wants to watch college football is watching West Virginia, North Carolina, and I would sell that to my team. You are being watched by more people in this game. You've got the whole nation watching you than at any other time this season.
Yep, and Neil Brown mentioned that too, Mark. You're right on the money with that. It's one way you can motivate them, man. All eyes are on you. National audience. This is what you come to West Virginia for, right? These are the games you come to a Power 5 school for, is to play in this type of environment where the entire nation's watching you, and it's your time to shine. And that's, again, makes it exciting to watch, to see how these players that may not get to play a lot, how do they handle that? For a hardcore fan, it's that stuff excites me. I want to see how these young guys perform because I'm looking at the future of the program, right? And this game is these bowl games can be as much a catapult for the following season as it can a recap or reward for this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these younger guys play.
And maybe, just maybe, with a win at 9-4, West Virginia sneaks into the final top 25.
Maybe. It'd be great. And it'd be great for Coach Brown, too. It'd give him a little feather in his cap because he hasn't been in the top 25 so far in his time at West Virginia. So, and if not, even if he doesn't make it into this year's, maybe he could sneak into the preseason top 25 for next year. And I think they will, with Garrett, with most of our O-line coming back, with Garrett coming back, with our running backs that we have returning, assuming we don't lose a lot of guys to the portal after the bowl game, because that is still a real possibility. I really like what we have coming back next year. So that'll be a huge feather in his cap if he can get that done.
Well, that MAYO over the noggin may not be the best feeling. It may feel a little gross, and it might be tough to get that smell out of your hair, but I'm sure he won't mind if that's what it comes down to.
I don't know. Neil Brown hates mayonnaise.
Oh, does he? Okay.
He does, yeah. Hey, you want to hear a funny story how West Virginia got in? I don't know if do you know the story as to how West Virginia ended up in this game?
No.
This is supposed to be an SEC-ACC matchup.
Mm-hmm.
The SEC had so many teams playing in the New Year's Six that they didn't have enough teams to fill all their bowl slots. Well, Ren Baker at West Virginia's AD, he knew that before they even started the selections. He knew that going in. And throughout the day, as he's seeing these bowl tie-ins get announced, he saw an opportunity for West Virginia to possibly get in a game, because most of the Big 12 tie-ins, you get stuck playing a game out west somewhere, or you get stuck playing, and I hate to say stuck, but it's kind of how we feel as fans, or you end up playing a group of 5 team that really doesn't excite anybody. He saw an opportunity for West Virginia to play a game in their region of the country where their fans can travel to, and it would be a good draw for the bowl and for the sponsors. And so they got on the phones and started making calls, and lo and behold, it worked out. So I just thought your audience may be interested to hear that story.
Well, that's really good, because I used to be an encyclopedia when it came to bowl tie-ins and all that. And I just figured, okay, it must have switched, because I knew it was SEC and ACC. And I just figured, well, the contract ran out. They switched up with another conference. Well, there you go. I'm glad you threw that at us. All right, everyone, check out Coos's Corner on YouTube. It's right here. It's a click away. So check out his work. Again, West Virginia football and basketball, the Big 12, and college football generally across the board. Well, Merry Christmas, Justin. Great to see you. Happy
Merry Christmas
holidays,
to you, Mark.
And great to see you, and appreciate the bowl breakdown.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me on. It's always a fun time over here on the Voice of College Football.